Hello guys, in this lecture we are going to see non-conventional energy sources and the concept of power factor. Start with the non-conventional energy sources. Considering the previously discussed thermal methods of conventional energy generations, it is necessary to understand the non-conventional energy sources since they have 2 points in their favor. First is non-polluting processes are used, and second, perpetuity perpetuity and renewability of main source. The non-conventional energy sources are further advantages due to virtually zero running cost since wind energy or solar energy is the input source of power. However, they are disadvantaged due to high initial cost per megawatt of installed capacity and due to uncertainty resulting of weather changes. For example, dense cloud or night hour lead to non-availability of solar energy. Similarly, still air condition means no possibility of wind power generation, and during stormy weathers, wind turbines cannot be kept in operation due to dangerous high speeds they would attain if kept in operation. Let's see one by one. That is, start with the photovoltaic cells, that is solar cells. When ionized solar radiation is incident on a semiconductor diode, then energy conversion can take place with a voltage of 0.5 to 1 volt DC and current density of 20 to 40 milliampere per centimeter square, depending upon the material used and the condition of sunlight. Area of these solar cells decides the current output. Area of this large number of such diodes, that is solar cells, results into higher DC output voltage. Since the final form of electrical energy required is generally an alternating current, it is realized from DC using inverters. At quite a few locations in India, for realizing few hundreds kilowatts of power rating, huge arrays are accommodated in horizontal as well as vertical stacks so that land area required is not too vast. Electrically, they are connected in series and in parallel combinations of cells so that rated voltage and current are realized. Just to understand the principle of operation of solar cells, let a semiconductor diode receive ionization radiation from sun. As you can see in this schematic figure, the solar radiation is bombarding on the semiconducting diode, that is of, you can say, a photovoltaic cell. Typical material used for this cell are material doped with boron, cadmium sulfide, gallium arsenide, etc. Their choice is mainly decided by conversion efficiency. Best material may lead to the efficiency being typically 15%. Since solar energy is available free of cost, this low efficiency does not matter. This method offers from the disadvantage of having high initial cost and uncertainty, including non-operating night periods. Main advantages are no running cost, no pollution, location can be near the load, hence transportation of power is not required over long distance. And fourth one, since natural sources is involved, it is perpetual. Individual stations using solar cells are in operation with rating of order of 250 to 1000 kilowatt with manufacturing cost of semiconductor devices going down, and with the advent of better quality of cells which will be available in future. This method of generation has bright prospects. Next is fuel cells. In fuel cells, the principle of operation is nothing but with in fuel cells negative porous electrode is fed by hydrogen and positive porous electrode is fed by oxygen. Both the electrodes are immersed in the electrolyte. The porous electrodes are made up of such a conducting material that both the fuel oxygen and hydrogen and electrolyte can pass through them. Such a material for electrode is nickel. The electrolyte is a solution of sulfuric acid or potassium hydroxide. The electrodes have a catalyst, that is platinum or sintered nickel, which break the fuel compound into more reactive atoms. Let's see the chemical process. At negative electrode, the reaction takes place with this reaction as 2H2 is with 4 hydrogen and 4 electrons released, 4 positive ions, hydrogen ions, and 4 electrons. And at positive electrode, which is a combination of oxygen and hydrogen, which is released with 2H2, that is of water. Thus, the combination of hydrogen and oxygen results into water at positive electrode. Water is a waste product of the cell which is harmless. The process is thus pollution free. There is no source of energy required since the process is basically chemical in nature. And the last one, wind power. Wind power has in use for serving the mankind since centuries through what has been popularly known as windmills. There is no electrical storage of energy in old style use where wind velocity is directly used for performing the job such as wheat grinding, pumping water for irrigation, sailing vessels, etc. It enjoys the advantages of being plentiful, inexhaustible, renewable, and non-polluting. It suffers from disadvantage of being unreliable and being economically unviable for large power generation. In India, a large number of such units with small and medium power ratings up to 100 kilowatt are already in operation mainly in coastal or hilly areas. With modern system, it is now preferred to have suitable power control circuits on the output side of wind generators so that this can pump energy into low voltage lines of the grid over a wide range of variation of wind speeds. A large variety of wind turbines naturally exist arising out of large variation in wind pattern all over and out of different manufacturers producing systems with the different designs. Since the aim here is to understand the basic system. Only one type of system is presented here. In this figure, you can see this figure having arrangement of a horizontal three-blade system is shown mounted on a tower. This is a side view of this blade, which showing a three blades, which is mounted on the tower for supporting the blades and gearbox. This of gearbox is the rotating transformation. Through rotating transformation using the gear to set up the speed and to link the horizontal axis of turbine with vertical axis of generator. The speed of wind varies as such turbine speed also varies so that output frequency and voltage of three-phase alternator vary over a wide range. Further, its waveform is also a distorted one. To increase its utility, it is necessary to modulate through proper power control to derive line frequency constant voltage output and hook up to local grid for pumping the available wind energy into it. This schematic represented as in figure. For that, the power control unit is implemented for modulation of the power for pumping into the local grid. If you are looking to the Indian scenario, wind farm have been located where a large number of wind generators of rating of few of 100 kilowatts are in operation. For every unit, there is a safe wind speed zone. If the wind speed is below this, there is no appreciable power output. Hence, it is better that the system is not brought into the operation. If the wind speed are too high, it is mechanically unsafe and hence it is not to be operated, even if energy available is higher. This is decided by automated system. Such farms are located in coastal regions and hilly areas because of metering of energy received by the local grid. The investor can get a good return through payment from the grid authorities. Hence, this has become a medium level and attractive industrial investment. Let's see the active, reactive, and apparent power. We will see one by one. Apparent power. It is given by the product of RMS value of applied voltage and circuit current. Simply you can get the formulation. S is nothing but V into I. V is the applied voltage, I is the current through the circuit. And V also can be defined as according to the Ohm's law I into Z. So that I is the current, Z is nothing but the impedance I into Z. So we can modify that. Apparent power can be defined as I square into Z. The unit of apparent power is nothing but volt ampere. Next is active power. Active power, it is the power which is actually dissipated in the circuit and it is designated by capital P or W and formulated as or expressed as I square R and it can be defined as V into I into cos phi. V into I into cos phi and the unit of the active power is nothing but watt. Third one, a reactive power which is designated by capital Q. It is the power developed in the inductive reactance of the circuit. Q is equal to I square into XL and I square and also defined as I square into Z sine phi and also it is defined with V into I sine phi and the unit of reactive power is nothing but volt ampere reactive, VAR. This figure shows a power triangle for inductive circuit which containing resistor and inductor, and this is nothing but active power. This showing rectangle part having apparent power, reactive power, and active power. This part is showing the active power, that is P is equals to I square R, which also can be defined as by the rectangle fundamentals. This is the phi, and if applying the cos phi, that is nothing but opposite side upon hypotenuse. So you can also find the power factor. Just we are going to define within few minutes. So this is nothing but the active power, this is a reactive power, and this is nothing but the apparent power. This triangle is called as power triangle. Let's see the power factor. What is the power factor? It is maybe defined as cosine of angle between the voltage and current in an AC circuit. It is known as power factor. You can see here in this figure, the voltage and current is shown in the vector form or graphical form. So this is having some phase difference, and if I applying the cos of this phase angle, cosine of this angle is nothing but power factor. And power factor also can be defined as a ratio of resistance and impedance, and also defined as active power and active power ratio of active power and apparent power. Simply, this vector shows a voltage vector. This is a current vector. This current vector having the two component. First is horizontal component I cos phi, vertical component which is nothing but I sin phi, which is showing with the dotted line. And this creates a right angle triangle. From this, we can calculate the cos phi. Cos phi is nothing but the I sin phi upon I cos phi. This opposite side upon hypotenuse, I sin phi upon I. So cos phi you can calculate with the adjacent side upon hypotenuse. Adjacent side is nothing but I cos phi upon I. So you will get the cos phi, that is nothing but power factor. Let's see the power triangle. From the power triangle, we can calculate the power factor. How it is calculated? Let's see. This triangle having a power triangle, it means it is nothing but active power Vi cos phi. This is nothing but Vi sin phi. Reactive power. This is of apparent power V into I. So as per the Pythagoras theorem, we can apply it here. OB square is equals to OA square plus AB square. So it is nothing but apparent power square is equal to active power square plus reactive power square. So kV square is equal to kW square plus kVAR square. If you want to calculate the cos phi, just apply to the cos here. So adjacent side, that is OA upon hypotenuse divided by OB. So cos phi is equal to OA upon OB. So we can calculate active power upon apparent power, that is kilowatt upon kVA. So we can conclude that power factor can also be calculated with the ratio of active power and apparent power. Power factor can be defined with the cos phi, cosine of the angle between V and I. Power factor also can be defined with the ratio of resistance and the and impedance. And third one, power factor also can be defined with the ratio of active power and apparent power, that is nothing but Vi cos phi upon Vi. Thank you very much.